It's time for Fresh Oil with singer-songwriter and pastor Keith Manley, a program designed to minister the gospel of God's grace and to bring fresh oil to the brokenhearted. And now, with today's program, Pastor Keith Manley.
Welcome to Fresh Oil. I'm so glad you joined me for the program. This week we are continuing in our series on the Psalms of Ascent. And I have to tell you, this particular psalm we are looking at today is one that I believe is going to land on somebody with real force, because it speaks directly to something that most of us are dealing with, whether we realize it or not. Let me catch you up quickly if you are just joining us. We are walking through the 15 Psalms of Ascent, Psalms 120 through 134. The songs that Jewish pilgrims sang as they made their way up to Jerusalem for the great feast 3 times a year. Road songs, journey songs, songs written not for the arrival, but for the miles in between. And we have been on quite a journey already. We started with a pilgrim in distress in Psalm 120. We found our watchman who never sleeps in Psalm 121. We stood in the gates of Jerusalem with gladness in Psalm 122. And today we come to Psalm 127. Now, Psalm 127 is unique among the Psalms of Ascent because of who wrote it. Most of these psalms are anonymous. We do not know who penned them. But Psalm 127 carries a specific name in its heading. It was written by Solomon, and that matters, because Solomon was the greatest builder in the history of Israel. He built the temple, the most magnificent structure the ancient world had ever seen. He organized tens of thousands of workers. He imported cedar from Lebanon and gold from Ophir. He spent 7 years constructing the house of God. If anybody understood building, it was Solomon. And yet Solomon, the master builder, sits down and writes this. Verse 1, "Unless the Lord builds the house, the builders labor in vain. Unless the Lord watches over the city, the guards stand watch in vain." The man who built the temple says, "Unless the Lord builds it, the building is empty. Unless the Lord watches over it, the watching is worthless." Now, I want you to feel the weight of that coming from Solomon. This is not someone who never built anything telling you that building does not matter. This is the greatest builder who ever lived telling you that his building, all of it, every stone, every beam, every ounce of gold, would have been nothing without God in the middle of it. The effort was real. The skill was real. The resources were real. But the one who made it mean something was God. That is what the word vain means here. Not worthless in the sense of producing nothing, vain in the sense of empty, hollow. A result that looks like something on the outside, but has nothing real at the center. You can build a house without God, and it will stand. The walls will go up, the roof will go on, but it will not be a home in the truest sense of the word. You can build a career without God, and it will produce income and status and maybe even influence, but it will not produce the thing you were actually looking for when you started building it. Because here is what Solomon understands that we often miss. The thing we are building, whatever it is not really ours to build. We are not the architects. We are co-laborers at best. And the moment we forget that, we have already started building in vain. Let me ask you a direct question. What are you building right now? Maybe it is a business. Maybe it is a family. Maybe it is a ministry. Maybe it is a marriage that needs rebuilding. Maybe it is your own life after a season of loss or failure. Whatever it is the Lord building it with you? Not just blessing it when you are done, not just the one you reported to at the beginning and then proceeded without. Is He actually in the daily decisions? Is He in the strategy? Because there is a difference, a profound difference between building something and then asking God to bless it, and actually letting God be the builder while you serve as His hands. The first approach puts you at the center and invites God to validate what you have already decided. The second approach puts God at the center and invites you into what He is already doing. Those are not the same thing. And the outcomes are not the same thing. Solomon knew which approach produced something real. He had tried both. He had built with God, the temple, and he had built without God, the hundreds of political marriages, the accumulation of horses and chariots and wealth that God had specifically told him not to pursue. And at the end of his life, looking back at all of it, this is what he wrote: "Unless the Lord builds the house, they labor in vain who build it." Do not build in vain. Let Him be the builder. Verse 2 takes the same truth and applies it to our relationship with work and rest. And I want you to listen carefully to this, because I think this verse speaks to an epidemic that is running through our culture right now. In vain you rise early and stay up late, toiling for food to eat, for He grants sleep to those He loves. Rise early and stay up late. Sound familiar? We celebrate that in our culture. The hustle, the grind, the person who is first in and last out, the one who sleeps less and works more and is always available and always on. We have turned overwork into a virtue and rest into a weakness. And if you are not grinding, you are falling behind. That is the message the world sends us every single day. And Solomon looks at all of that and says, vanity. Not because hard work is wrong. Solomon was not a lazy man. He accomplished more in his lifetime than most nations accomplish in a generation. The issue is not the work. The issue is the belief underneath the work. The belief that says, if I do not hold this together, it will fall apart. If I do not stay one step ahead, everything will collapse. That belief, that particular lie, is a form of functional atheism. It is living as though God is not actually involved, as though the outcome depends entirely on your wakefulness and your effort, and it will exhaust you, it will hollow you out, it will take everything you have and leave you with a result that feels emptier than it should. He grants sleep to those He loves. That line is extraordinary. The person who genuinely trusts God, who has placed the building in God's hands, who believes that God is actually involved in the outcome, is the person who can lie down and sleep. Not because they are lazy, but because they are not carrying what was never theirs to carry. They have given it to the one who does not sleep, and because He is awake, they can rest. I want to ask you something personal. When is the last time you actually rested? Not collapsed from exhaustion, rested. Intentionally, peacefully, without guilt. When is the last time you stopped and trusted that what God is building will still be standing when you wake up? The inability to rest is a spiritual diagnosis. It is almost always a symptom of a soul that has functionally taken God off the throne of whatever it is building and replaced him with itself. And the prescription is not a vacation. The prescription is repentance and trust. Now verses 3 through 5 shift in a direction that catches people off guard. Solomon has been talking about buildings and cities and work and rest, and then he pivots to children. Verse 3, children are a heritage from the Lord, offspring a reward from him. The connection is intentional. Solomon has been talking about what lasts, about the difference between building in vain and building with God. And now he says, the most lasting thing you will ever build is not a structure or a business or even a ministry. It is a family. And your children are not your project. They are not the product of your superior parenting strategy. They are a heritage from the Lord, a gift, an inheritance entrusted to your hands. That word heritage, nakala in the Hebrew, means something that belongs ultimately to God and is given to you as a stewardship. You did not produce your children. You receive them. And that changes your entire posture toward them. You are not their maker. You are their steward. And the one who gave them to you is the one who knows best how to raise them. Verse 4 gives us a picture that is both tender and powerful. Like arrows in the hands of a warrior are children born in one's youth. An arrow has 2 seasons. The first season is the shaping season, when the arrow is still in the craftsman's hands, being formed, straightened, prepared. That is the season of parenting, the daily work of shaping a life, teaching, modeling, correcting, loving, investing. Those years when the child is in your hands and you are doing the slow, patient work of forming who they are going to be. And then comes the second season, the release. The warrior draws back the bow and lets the arrow fly. And from that moment, the arrow is in flight, beyond the reach of the hand that shaped it, heading somewhere the hand can no longer control. Every parent knows that moment is coming, and every parent who has lived through it knows how hard it is to open your hand, because you love that arrow. You spent years shaping it, and now it is flying somewhere you cannot follow. But here is what the image tells us. The warrior does not apologize for releasing the arrow. That is what arrows are for. They're not made to stay in the quiver. They are made to fly. And your children, shaped by the years of faithful investment you poured into them, are made to fly. Your job is to shape them well, and then to trust the God who gave them to you to guide them to where He always intended them to land. Verse 5, Blessed is the man whose quiver is full of them. May the Lord anoint you today with fresh oil.
Thanks for joining us today for Fresh Oil with Pastor Keith Manley. Fresh Oil is an outreach of Grace Family Church in Rockford, Illinois, and can be heard each weekday at this same time. You can reach us online at weneedgod.com. Until next time, remember, God's love for you is unconditional, and He makes His mercies new every morning.